Hello, good evening once again. Thank you so much for making time to join today's section. So today we have our speaker, the able John Van Grace. He's going to take us through ISO 9001, Organization and Leadership. As we have always been doing, the rules are the same. The first is that we need you to change your name. So if you have an abbreviated name, a short form of your name, or you've not changed it, those who are using iPhone, kindly go to the participants, click on your name, choose rename, and you are able to change the name to your full name as you use to fill the form. Also, participating in all the meeting is compulsory. So if you know someone who is not or who has not joined, then kindly alert them. You need to join all meetings before we will be able to issue you a certificate. So kindly alert anyone that you know to join us today. We've already passed 182, but we are expecting no less than 700 in attendance. So kindly alert your colleagues so that they join us. Thank you so much. If you have any question, as we did yesterday, you can send me a private message, 050167275 748, 05016727748. You can send a private message and I'll reply you. You can also send your message on the Zoom. The messages are a lot, so we find it difficult to track. And people are typing their names over there. I don't know who authorized that. You are not supposed to type your name in the chat, in the meeting chat. I said go and change your name, the Zoom name that you join with, not to type your name in the chat. If you type your name there, if someone have a message there for us, you'll not be able to see them because the messages are a lot. So if you have any concern, you can quickly send us a private message and we'll address them for you. The WhatsApp page is also very active now. If you want to request any information, you can do that. Thank you so much. Brother John, the stage is ready for you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Evans. And good evening to all the participants. Today we'll be looking at the next topic for the series of topics we have for this particular CPD. We are looking at organization and leadership. Now, my name is John Van Grace, and I'm sure by now most of you have read about my profile. So I think that will be enough then so that we can go ahead with the presentation. And during the question time, if you have anything, we can talk about that during that period. Okay. So this discussion is actually based on ISO 901, the 2015 edition. So we should keep that in mind. For the past 2 days, we're looking at the environmental, the one relating to the environment that was done by Evans Fick. So I want you to keep in mind that this is ISO 901 or 9001, sorry, 9001, the 2015 edition, quality management system. Okay. Now, our objectives for this particular presentation, the one for the organization and leadership. By the end of this presentation, this is what I want you to carry home. Get to know about the ISO 9001, the 2015 edition, and its benefits to an organization. And also with this, you can explain the context of the organization. Now, when we go further, you understand what I mean by that. Interested parties, their needs and expectations, so that when you are designing the context of the organization, you know how to put them right in order to fulfill the requirements of this particular standard. We'll talk about the quality management system, its scopes, and the related processes. That will deal with the organization. From there, we'll look at leadership and its commitment to the success of the implementation of an ISO. Now, this will not relate to only the ISO 9001, but any other ISO. Because yesterday, during the discussion, so those who left earlier may not have heard about that. There were interesting contributions and suggestions from the participants, and they made mention of the importance of leadership in even achieving the ISO in an organization. So we'll look at that. Then we'll look at how to go about the quality policy, how to establish it, what are the things needed, and how do you communicate it throughout the organization so that the purpose for which the organization or the company or hospital is going for this particular ISO will be achieved. Now I'll take you through a brief discussion about the ISO. Now, when we say ISO, first I want you to know that ISO is not an acronym. It's from the Greek word isos, which means equal. Now, the organization, that's the ISO organization, adapted that name, ISO, because it means equal. So whether in French, in English, in Portuguese, any other language, they all say ISO. So that's what it means. It's not an acronym. So I just wanted to let you know about that. When we say an international standard, it's a document that contains information that can be applied and also knowledge of best practices across a broad industry. So you get practical information and best practice. Then it often describes an agreed way of doing something or a solution to a global problem. Now, this definition is coming from the ISO company. This is how they have defined it. So an agreed way of doing things or a solution to a global problem. Now, why international standard? Why do we want to standardize things globally? One, to make products compatible so that they fit and work well with each other. An example is we all know the A4 paper. Now, the papers have sizes. They gave that dimension, the A4 paper size, so that all manufacturers of printers will also comply with that particular size. That's why when you get a printer, you see that they have dimensions. You have the A4 paper, you have the A5, you have the A3. That standardizes that particular product so that anywhere in the world, when I say A4 paper, you know what I'm talking about. If you want to go into the manufacturing of printers, you know that across the globe, everybody deals with A4, A3, the type of paper sizes we have. And that makes it compatible so that wherever we go, we can work and achieve the same results. Now, another benefit or why these standards are available is that they help identify safety issues. Safety issues. For instance, with the ISO airplanes that we take from one place to the other, the ISO help us input safety measures. For instance, when you board the plane, you hear the air hostess saying the same thing. Whether you boarded the plane more than 50 times, they will say the same thing over and over and over again. Why? It's a protocol for airlines to do so that everything will be safe during the flight. They tell you when there's turbulence, you'll be informed. Now, before planes take off, they are also taking care of, maintain, go through processes so that by the time they are taking off, everything that needs to ensure a safe flight are in place. That's why at times you go to the airport and they will tell you the flight has been delayed. One, it could be due to bad weather. It could be due to the maintenance failure. It could just be a screw to one part of the plane. And because of that, they will not allow the plane to take off. So with ISO, we are able to standardize the manufacturing of planes so that they all follow the same standard, the same requirements to ensure safety flights. The international standards also gives the global community an opportunity to share ideas and solutions. So when there is a plane crash, after the investigation, whatever they got from such this investigation is shared across the world, especially to plane manufacturers, to those who are into the aviation industry, to know what they can do to prevent the reoccurrence of such plane crash. So these are some of the reasons why these standards are available to help have compatible products across the globe, identify safety issues and solve them. So not just to identify the issue, leave it like that. We solve them so that we can prevent its reoccurrence. Then with the sharing of good ideas and solutions, technological know-how, and best management practice, we all use ATM cards. It could be debit card or credit card. Now, wherever you go across the world or across the world, if you have an ATM card from a bank here in Ghana, you take it to the United States, and it has the one that was giving you had followed the international standard. That's why we have an ATM for traveling abroad. We have one you can use locally. So if you use the local one outside, it may not work because it may not meet the requirements that is needed internationally. So that's why when you are given an ATM, you have to know which one you can use when you are traveling. For online transactions, any other ATM can be used, but when you want to insert into an ATM machine, there are requirements to ensure efficiency. Now, why do we need to go for international standards? Recently, we've gotten some of our hospitals accredited, and it brought excitement to a lot of us. That means we are making progress. Why did they have to go in that direction? We know private labs that are accredited that way too. One, it raises the profit margin. Now, yesterday during the discussion, it was made known that going for such an accreditation is capital intensive, but it also produces results. It increases profits. Because how does it increase the profit? You offer products that have increased quality, compatibility, and safety. So let's bring it to the laboratory setting. If you are ISO accredited, your results do not just come out anyhow. There are particular ways they are supposed to come out. The reference ranges, there are units that are accepted internationally. So you don't use, for instance, the unit for a particular, let's say creatinine or urea. You have to look for the one that is accepted globally. You don't use one that is skewed to one particular country, because when you take it to another country, the doctor may have challenges. So the ISO helps you to have compatibility in your result delivery. And the other thing you do is you benefit from the knowledge and best practices of organizations outside your locality. Now, if you have big hospitals that have that were used in piloting that particular standard, all the hitches they had were solved before the standard was brought out. Now you get the best knowledge to apply to your facility. And that way you don't go through the same challenges they went through before getting us the standard available for everyone to use. Now, another benefit. So these are some of the benefits you can put across if you want your organization or your laboratory or a department, let's say physiotherapy department, maybe radiology or the food and nutrition department. These are things you can communicate to top management because you have to convince them. And we all know top management, what they are looking at is how to balance cost, expenditure, and profit. So if what you are bringing will not produce results and you are not able to defend it, they may shoot it down. Now, getting this international standards makes an organization competitive. You are able to offer products that are accepted globally. For instance, there are some lab results that cannot go outside Ghana because there are standards they are not following. Lab results from different areas, and some you see, okay, this is okay. Some also go beyond what is needed. But with the ISO, you know what is required. Applying the standard, the fourth thing you can get is applying the standard to your organization gives you the opportunity to accredit, and any country recognizes ISO accreditation. So you can easily penetrate such a country. That's why that's used in this country from outside. And most of those ones that are ISO are still here for long. We know of Nestle. Stay so long with us. Why? Because they have a system working to ensure acceptability anywhere they go. So this accreditation gives one opportunity to have easy market entry. Then the interesting thing is the fifth one. ISO reduces cost. What it does is it improves efficiency and effectiveness. So the required resources is used at the appropriate place. Wastages are taken out. So by applying any ISO standard in a particular area, you rather end up reducing costs. That's why you get increased profits. Okay. So those are the benefits from the standard. And we are going to our main discussion, but I want to clarify that we have a previous version of the ISO 9001, which was 2008. The current one I'm going to talk about is the 2015 edition. And the three main things were added to this new edition. This one is geared towards process approach. There's more focus on measuring and properly assessing the inputs and outputs of all the processes in that organization. their interaction, how they work together to ensure the achievement of the results. Now, the second thing that was added to this ISO was risk-based thinking. Risk-based thinking. Now, when we go further, we'll talk more about this particular idea, the risk-based thinking. The more emphasis was placed on leadership and management commitment. Because if there is no commitment from your leadership or the management, it will not fly. It won't get anywhere. If they are involved, those who have gotten accreditation will understand this. If your management is involved, it's a smooth ride. If they are not, it may not even get the opportunity to rise. So these are the new things that were added to the new edition that was established or published in 2015. Now, this particular ISO 9001 is for organizations that want to consistently produce products or offer services that meet customer and regulatory requirements. So if you want to meet your customers' satisfaction, if you want your customers to leave having a good experience, this ISO is for you. If you want to meet regulatory conditions, aside statutory conditions or requirements, because there are laws and there are regulations, you use this ISO, you'll be able to meet those requirements. Then the other thing this particular ISO does is it enhances customer satisfaction. It enhances customer satisfaction. So this ISO is different from ISO 15189, which is geared towards the medical laboratory. Most hospitals get this ISO for the whole hospital so that they can achieve better customer satisfaction. Their services will be top-notch. They can attract other people across the neighboring countries or the sub-region to access their service or products. So that's what the scope of this ISO covers. Now, organizational context or the context of the organization. These are things that are related to the context of the organization. So if you are going to define the context of the organization, these are things we'll be looking at: issues, both internal and external, relevant interested parties. Those are we have customers, we have suppliers, we have the necessary laws and regulations that you have to fulfill in order to be established. Now, for the health sector, we know we have, when it comes to allied health, we have the HEFRA, things you are supposed to fulfill in order to be a clinic or to be licensed by HEFRA. Now, with this particular clause, the context of the organization, when you want to fulfill this requirement in this ISO, the purpose is for you to understand the issues, that's both external and internal, that are important to the organization's purpose and strategic direction. either positively or negative. Now, you find out how can this external or these issues affect your organization, whether positively or negatively, in achieving the intended results of the quality management system. Now, if you are using this requirement, this standard, there are some verbal words I would like you to take note of. When the standard says you shall, when it uses the word shall, it implies it is a requirement. You can't forgo that. And when it uses the word should, it is suggesting a condition, a recommendation. When it says should, it recommends something you can do to improve on your organization. When it says may, you may do this, you may do that, you may allow this, it's giving you permission to do that particular thing. Now, when it uses the word can, C-A-N, it shows you that it is possible to go this way, or you have the capability to do that, or whatsoever you want to do, it is allowed. Those are the things, those are the 4 words I want to take note of. Now, in getting to know the context, you have to recognize your external and internal issues or elements that can influence the strategic business objectives and the quality management system planning. Now, what are these external and internal factors or elements? Now, before I go there, an organization's context is guided by its business environment. So where you are you in the laboratory medicine field? Is it physiotherapy? Is it health and safety? Where you are, that is what characterizes your organization's context, your customers, and their needs. It's one of the things you have to look at. The necessary knowledge and tools you need. So this make up the context, the materials, the external services you get from others. What are the legal issues, the regulations, and even the cultural constraints in that particular locality. There may be a locality where they allow something or disallow it. So all these things will help you know what to do and what not to do in developing the context of your organization. Now, in understanding the organization and the contexts that are related, we look at external issues and internal issues, as I mentioned earlier. Now, when it comes to external issues, we are looking at statutory and regulatory factors. This has to do with laws and regulations to that particular industry, like the trade union. So for the health sector, allied health, we'll be looking at the AHPC, EFRA, because they are people who regulate activities of the lab or the hospital. Now with EFRA, it has to do with the competency or the ability of that person to work in a lab setting, or whether in a physiotherapy setting, radiography. So you look at those factors. How can you fulfill those factors? Then other trade union regulations. So we have GAMS. What is GAMS looking for? Physiotherapy, they have an association. What do they look for in their people when they are working? What are some, if you want to open a physiotherapy department, what does the association to say about the setting? What are the things you need? They will recommend things. The Allied Health Council will also do something. Will make sure that the people who work there are lancers. EFRA will make sure that the environment is suitable for the work. So these are things you look at. Then you look at the economic factor. That has to do with exchange rates. Now, in the last few weeks, we have seen some dramatic changes, hikes in our the rate of the dollar doubled. The dollar in March is close to 15 cedis. That's twice. So if you work in an area where you import, you know you have been hit so much because you have not increased your prices, but the amount to make up that dollar has gone up. So these are some of the things you consider when you are designing the context of the organization. What is the influence of the economy on this organization? How can we set a robust system to hold on when there are some crisis in the economy? You get updated with inflation forecasts. What are the experts saying? What can happen? So these are things you look at, and these are external factors. And the next thing is market factors. Who are those in competition or your competitors? Who are the market leaders? What's the customer growth trend? What are customers looking for? How stable is this particular market in this environment? Okay, I want to open a physiotherapy department in this hospital. Have you found out how many cases go through that hospital that require the physio to intervene? Something like that. So these are things you look for. Those are the market factors that will influence the context of your organization. Then you look at the supply chain relationships. These are all parts of market factors. Those you get items from. Obviously, they easily get their items through the border, through the port, whether by air or by sea. Do they clear their goods easily, or they have to go through a lot of processes? How can you, if there's an emergency, can they help you in the time of emergency? These are all things you look at in choosing some of your interested parties. The next factor is technological factor. Now the world is gearing towards going into the cloud, doing things on the internet. Now most hospitals have EMR, some labs have LIS, where everything is internet-based. Now, some of these platforms have Lance's expiration dates. When you buy it, it's not forever. You have to yearly renew it. If you don't renew it, they cut you off. How are you going to ensure that consistently you have access to your data? Or will you take the option of buying the server and having it locally? These are all things you consider when you are designing the context of the organization. We look at political factors. Now, most of the times you hear presidents of nations calling for foreign investors. Some particular nations call for foreign investors. Some, they don't. Because the political stability of that nation is not certain. Anything can happen. That's why most presidents do their best to prevent uproars or civil wars in their country. Because when foreign investors hear of such, they don't like to invest in such an environment. And I'm sure you also not like to invest in an area where you know there's a war going on. To not be a good investment. Some of the political factors, apart from the political stability, we also look at international trade agreements. What are the agreements? What are things I can buy from this nation to my nation? There are some purchases when you contact the supplier will tell you, no, I don't sell things to this particular region. My product is designed for the Europe market. We have not yet done any for the African market. So what do you want? Have you found a good supplier who has an agreement that allows him or her to bring products into the African region? So these are things you look at when designing the context of your organization. Then we have the social factors. And this has to do with the education levels of the people in the nation. So what is the educational level of the people, or so the nation, the region you want to penetrate as a new market, or your locality? What is the educational level of the people? What are the working days? How many public holidays do they have in a year? Now, in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the rest, Friday is not a working day. Sunday is a working day. So all these things are needed so that you can design your organization well, so that when you are giving working hours, you know how to go about it. When the HR is working with how to take care of payment for workers, how to handle human resource personnel, they will know what to consider and what not to consider. So all these are external influences to the designing of the context of the organization. And when it comes to internal issues, how well is the organization performing? Is it performing so well that we need to upgrade to adopt an international standard so that we can still be at the top? Because when you keep going up and you keep doing the same thing, you will not get a different result unless you change your strategy. So is the organization performing well? So when we add this standard, will it move the organization higher? If that works, it's okay, then we'll go for it. Then you look at your resources. Do we have an infrastructure that meets the requirements of this standard? How is our infrastructure? The environment for the operation of our various work activities, would they be in compliance to this standard we want to adopt? What is our organizational knowledge? Do we have enough knowledge as an organization, as in educational knowledge, social knowledge? Do we have enough to do this work? When we go for it, will we accomplish our goal, or midway we'll give up and say, we didn't have enough strength to go this way? So you assess these things. Do we have the resources, the knowledge? Is the environment conducive? The infrastructure can handle this? Then you look at the human aspects, the competency of your personnel. Are they having the necessary competence that is efficient for this particular requirement in the standard? Can they meet this demand of doing things excellently? Can we train them to have this excellent mind so that we can all come together as a team to achieve this goal? What is the organizational culture? How are we with each other? we seeing ourselves as faction? We are this. We don't deal with these people. We are higher. We don't know. If you have those issues, it will be difficult to achieve an accreditation. There has to be one mind, and that has to do with the culture in the organization. Are employees friendly with each other? Do they chat? Because I've seen organizations where you go, those in the finance or HR department don't talk to those who are in the laboratory or nursing or the clinical environment. They see each other, they bypass, no communication. If that kind of rapport is not there, it might be difficult getting this standard established in such an organization. Now, what is the company's employees' relationship with the various unions, the associations? How do they relate with them? Are they part of the association? Do they learn anything from there? Are there things as an organization we are supposed to know so that we don't infringe on some of the rights of our people and all that? So that has to do with the human aspect. The next thing is operational factors. What are the processes in the service provision we are looking at? Do we have the capacity to achieve it? So all this one boils back to the human resource and
Hello, John. Hello, John. Okay, it seems John's mic has gone down.
to achieve it.
Hello, John.
We look at, yes.
So do check your mic for us. Right now it went off for about 30 seconds. So check your mic. Then uplift your voice more for us.
Okay,
some are complaining that the tone is slow. So kindly up it a bit for us so that they can hear. Yes, increase the pitch for us.
Is it better now?
Yes, for me it's okay for me, but people are complaining. For me, there is okay, but people are complaining on the page. So I think you can go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
So this has to do with both the external and internal issues when designing the context of your organization. Now, we interested parties. The purpose of fulfilling this standard or this clause that are coming from these interested parties, how can they impact on the organization's capability, the ability to offer this service we want to do, or this product we want to offer? Defines interested party as a person or organization that can affect, so one can be affected, to be affected by a decision or activity. So any person or organization in this category is an interested party, but we look out for the relevant ones to what we are doing. If it is a lab, we look out for the relevant interested parties, both external and internal. Now, in the that we need to fulfill as an organization. The internal interested parties has to do with the management. They specify conditions. The employees, that's the staff, they also have their conditions they specify. Shareholders, trade unions, all these are internal interested parties. Now, how do we identify these parties, these relevant parties? We do that by considering one,
Hello, John. Hello, John. Hello, John. All right. Our presenter has lost his mic, so we are working on him to get back as soon as possible. Kindly bear with us. So let me quickly run through some of the challenges many are going through. If you know someone who is not able to log in or join the meeting, one of the challenges that many has opened the software and they are trying to input the ID, the meeting ID and the password. You don't need to do that. So kindly help anyone who is going through that challenge. Just close the app, click the link, it will open and ask you if you have the app installed, then it will ask you to launch the app. If not, then it will ask you to open in browser. So just open in browser and you'll be able to join the meeting. All right. So kindly bear with us. John should be with us very soon. I think it's network challenge at his end also.
Hello.
Hello, John, you are back.
Yes, sorry for the hiccup.
Yes,
the network
so kindly
was having some challenge.
Yes, it's possible. So kindly continue for us. Thank you.
Okay, so as I was saying, looking at the criteria for identifying these relevant parties, let's look at how do they influence the organization's performance or decision making. So if there is any external or internal party that can influence this, we note them down. So as I gave in the examples, the external and internal interested parties, you look at those ones that can influence the decision making of the company. Now, the second point is, do they have the ability to create opportunities or to influence, to cause issues? That means they may come as a risk to the company. How do we handle that? So that's another thing you look at. If any of these interested parties can do that, we note them down as an interested party. So, for instance, when we are looking at influencing decision making, you can't take HEFRA out when you are setting up a lab, a physiotherapy facility, or even a clinic. You need to fulfill their requirements. You can't take EPA out, Environmental Protection Agency, because you have biological waste that you dispose of. And these are biohazards. So they'll be interested. They will influence your decision making. And those that can create risk. Those that can create risk or opportunities, we look at those ones. Then what about the ones that can create opportunities? How do we take advantage of such interested parties? The third thing is, would they have an influence on our market growth? Or how would they push us when we go into the market? For instance, we have laws that are saying that we can't do adverts for lab and blah, blah, blah. There are some statutes that affect other things. How can we take advantage of those ones? The next thing is ability to affect the organization through their decisions or activities. So when any interested party meets this criteria, they are considered in designing the context of the organization. So examples are the customers, shareholders, owners of the organizations, the owners of intellectual property. For instance, if you are using a server of a company, you are online, the server is not for you. You have to know what are the contractual requirements in that deal. Statutory and regulatory authorities, how can you fulfill them? Bankers. So these are some of the interested parties. Employees, trade and professional associations, competitors, non-governmental organizations. So these are all things you look at when you are designing the context of the organization. Now, how do you determine the needs and expectations of these parties? Reviewing customer needs and expectations and satisfaction through these surveys you do. Reviewing requests that come from your customers. Are they consistently asking for a particular service that you don't provide? Are you going to incorporate it into the service delivery of the company? You look at that. Your supply chain relationship, you have to review it. How can you make it work now that you are going to apply this standard to your organization? You have to do market surveillance, benchmarking in that industry. Who are the market leaders? What can you learn from them to help you also rise? These are things you look at when you are determining the needs and expectations of these interested parties we are talking about. Now, if you want to know the scope of the management system, that the quality management system, first is based on these external and internal issues that we just talked about earlier on. The relevant requirements of the interested parties and the relevant ones, of course. Then the services or products you want to offer. These are the things that will help you design the scope of your quality management system. Because the scope is a vital part of the quality management system, because it defines how far or the boundaries that the organization can go to. There are things you can do, there are things you cannot do. Because there are things that you cannot do, you have outsourced. How do you regulate all those things? You consider them when you are designing or drafting the scope of the quality management system. It should include the details of the services you offer, the justification for things you cannot satisfy in this standard should also be stated. If there are some requirements, because it's not all the requirements in the standard you can fulfill. The ones you can't, you justify why you cannot fulfill such requirements. Then you document and have it down as a record. Now, we are going to look at the quality management system and its processes, something we call the process approach. I mentioned it earlier on that it's one of the new things they added to the 2015 standard. So this process approach involves systematic definition. And this definition is coming from the ISO document. It involves the systematic definition and management of processes and their interactions. So the processes are activities that go on in the organization and their interactions, so as to achieve the intended results in accordance with the quality policy and the strategic direction of the organization. So you don't separate the implementation of an ISO standard from the business itself. It's not like this is also another thing the organization is doing. No. Is bringing the water has to go test it. Who is the producer? Where they are producing the water from? Is it something reliable? Because your clients will be drinking that water. You don't want an outbreak of disease to come as a result of water that was drunk from your facility. So these are things you look at. And this standard helps you establish a process, the various processes and how they interact with each other. And this contributes to the organization's effectiveness and efficiency in accomplishing the intended goal. So we'll look more on the process approach. Now, the international standard promotes the adoption of process approach. Why? Because it helps to develop, implement, and improve the effectiveness of the management system that you're adopting. And that way you enhance customer satisfaction. So the management of the process and the system, there's this tool called PDCA cycle. So briefly described below is, first you plan. You plan, that means you establish the objectives of the system, then you implement what you have planned. You check, you monitor the implementation that you have done. How is it going? Then you act. So during the monitoring, were they hitches? Were they non-conformances? How are you resolving them? It's a cycle. It's something like this. So first you plan, and with the planning, you see leadership in the middle. That means the leadership plays a role in all the parts of the PDCA. In planning, leadership must be involved. In doing, because they will have to provide the resources. In checking, there are things they are supposed to do there. Then the checking leads to continuous improvement. So you get things, recommendations from maybe an audit you did in checking the doing or the things that you implemented. So the recommendations should be acted upon. And how do you act upon them? You plan how you are going to implement those new recommendations. Then you do them. Then it goes on that way. And that is what we call continual improvement or continual process improvement. It's not one day thing. As you go on, you use this kind of approach, you see that day in, day out, the organization will be improving. It will not be at the same level. If there is a problem, they'll be able to catch it quick and resolve it before it becomes a big issue. And who are those influencing it? The context of the organization, customer requirements, the needs of expected relevant parties. These are the people influencing this plan, do, check, and act cycle approach in developing your processes in the quality management system. Now, and the next thing in the process approach is a risk-based thinking. Now, with this kind of approach, what you do is you look at risks, you find out risks, you consider them, then you control such risks so that they don't affect the process. Hello, can you hear me? Hello,
John, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So the risk-based thinking looks at the concept of risk-based things that can affect the plan and use of this quality management system you want to adopt. You identify those things, consider them, then you control them. So you know a holiday can affect the work. How are you going to control such a holiday? Your staff, how are you going to handle them? The electricity, how are you going to handle it? Are you going to switch on all ACs? Or is there a way you can put some 2 or 3 departments together in one particular room to conserve energy, to save costs? What can you do to prevent? For instance, if there is a natural disaster, there is fire, what are you going to do? How are you going to prevent it? Yes, for the past 2 days, Evans talked about the environment, and that's safety. Are you going to have fire alarms that will prevent the possibility of having fire? Are you going to have sprinklers installed so that when the fire starts and the alarm is beeping and there's nobody around, so that the sprinklers will act? Will you have a system that will alert the fire service? Not in this country, we don't have that one yet. Maybe as time goes on, we'll get better. But there are countries or nations where when there's fire, they have systems that alert the fire service department, even when they are home, even when there's nobody in that facility. So these are things to look at the possibility. Then you handle them before they become an issue. That's a risk-based thinking. The application of the process approach enables the understanding and consistency in meeting conditions in this standard. So when you plan, you do, check, and act, as you continually do it, there will be consistency in meeting the standard. So you keep on improving. It also helps you to understand the processes in terms of added value. The activities you are rendering or the activities that come together, do they help to achieve what you want? You look at that and you move from one stage to the other. The process approach helps you accomplish effective process performance. Effectiveness is very important because it helps reduce cost. Effectiveness and efficiency will help reduce cost. So this process approach will help you go in that direction, and that way you reduce costs, you raise your profits. And finally, it leads to based on evidence-based decision making. And this you get from evaluation of data and information that you collect from various areas. So in the is it market surveys, is it customer reviews, is it a complaint? All these things, you look at them at management meetings, is it lab meeting, is it staff meeting? You review them to improve upon the process. And that way you have the opportunity to move forward. Now, quality management system and its processes. Now, we are looking at documented information. Now, all these processes that you have put in place, how you meet the requirement, your planning, your activity, if they are not documented, there is no evidence that you did them. And there are two kinds of documentation. We have those that have to be maintained to support the operation of the process, such as SOPs, manuals, regulations, forms, software. These are documents that have to be maintained. Because if you buy a license for an internet product, they keep on updating. And the update is not free. You buy it. So you have to maintain that to support the operation of your process. Then there are those that are retained in order to have confidence that the processes are being carried out as planned. These ones are known as records. An example of such records are the customer requirements, the statutory and regulatory requirements. These are things EFRA requires, the business certificate. Do you have the tax certificate? Do you have this document? Those ones are kept, and you make sure they are not altered or changed without authorization from top management. And when such alters are done, for example, if it is a change of name of the company, there should be evidence that this was done and this is the new name. Both documents should be readily available for evidence. So this brings us to the close of the organization or the context of the organization. Now let's look at leadership and commitment. We've talked about what the organization has to do. Now, if the leaders are not part, if top management is not part, we can achieve it. So who is top management? If you are looking at leadership and commitment, ISO defines top management as the person or group of people who directs and controls an organization at the highest level. So, for instance, the chart I showed, we have this man at the top. He may be the CEO. You have directors below him. There are supervisors. So the top man and the other four people are the ones who are controlling the organization. And you need them, you need support from them in order to achieve the establishment of any ISO you want to do. Now, if it is a smaller company, who are the top management? Mostly it's either the owner or the partners or those who came together to set up that company. They now become the top management. So it may not be one person. Founder and the founders or three co-founders, they are the top management. In order to achieve such an ISO in that environment, you need their consent. Now, the top management have the capability to delegate authority and provide the resources. So they can say, okay, I'm busy, so I appoint this person in my stead to do this and that, and they give the person the resources. This is not a position without a portfolio. It should be one with the authority and the resources to achieve whatever they want. How would the leadership demonstrate commitment? One, they have to set up quality, policy, and objectives. It has to be in place. You can't just say, okay, go ahead and do it. No. You set it in place. How? It should be based on the management direction, communicated in the organization, and they should also track it. They should track it for progress. So even if it is delegation, they have to be involved. how far is this thing going? And that way, you can see that the management is involved in whatever you are doing. Responsibilities, roles, and authorities should be assigned. And those who are giving such assignment should understand the assignment. And all others in the organization should be aware that these people have this responsibility and authority over them. If that is not done, you may assign somebody and nobody knows the role of that person, and it may not work well for the organization. The other one is integrating the quality management system, or making sure it is integrated well into the business processes. It should not be an isolated venture, no. It should be part of the business processes. So HR is involved, marketing is involved, finance is involved, the clinical setting is involved, the cleaner, the gate man, everyone is involved. And that way, it works perfectly. The resources should be made readily available, periodically reviewed and addressed by the management, so that there will be continual implementation of the standard, because such standards are given for a period of time and reassessment is done. So if such things are not done, it's not a one-time thing. You continually have to improve upon it, and you need resources to continue. They have to promote and support continual improvement. When recommendations from management meetings, audits, corrective actions, staff meetings are given to them and they are needed to be implemented, the leadership has to ensure that such implementations are done. And that way, they can easily have this management system working for them. And when all the employees or everybody in the organization is aware, and even the suppliers are aware that management is involved, when the supplier is even giving you something on credit, they know that the company is involved, so there is no way I will not be paid. So it breeds trust with your suppliers, and it makes things work. So when there's challenges and you call a supplier that, oh, we need this, they can easily bring it because they know your management is backing you, and there's no way you will make payments. Customer focus. Who are the customers? Now, we normally look at those who purchase the organization's products and services, but they are not the only ones. The families of such people are also customers. The organizations in which they work are also customers, because a good recommendation or review from one person in a family may bring the whole family to your organization. A bad report will make your organization. So you have to know that aside, apart from the ones you see physically or the ones you have contact with, there are people around them who are also customers, and they should. Now, to improve on customer satisfaction, you have to look at on-time delivery performance. We call it in the lab, it's called turnaround time. Are your results released? And not just released. Your customer satisfaction is their communication. What complaints are they bringing up? If you consider those things, it will help you to improve customer satisfaction. Now, we have to establish quality policy, because the setup management has to establish that by getting involved. Now, the quality policy describes the intentions and direction the organization wants to go. And it's formally done by the top management. So the CEO and maybe the board of directors will say, okay, this is how we want the organization to go. If this ISO is coming in, how will it help us to achieve it? So they set something called quality policy. Now, quality policy is also known as mission statement, vision. Some companies call it vision, the vision of the company. It could be the statement of principles. All these things mean quality policy. And it is a well-written document or statement which ensures that employees understand their job affects the product or service quality and quality control, and therefore the success of the company. So it's a document that lets employees know that whatever you are doing, whether you are a cleaner, you are a lab scientist, you are a physiotherapist, you are a doctor, you are a nurse, you are a provider, whatever you are doing, you should know that if you don't do it well, it affects us. So this is what gives guidance to what is done in the organization. How do we establish it? First, there should be clear understanding of the contents of the organization, which we have discussed earlier on. Which direction is the organization going? What is our focus? Who are our level and type of future that will be required for us to still be in the business? What are we? Customer satisfaction. What are they to meet this requirement? Their contribution. Or what I've been talking about. Coca-Cola says that our vision is to craft the brands. Now I'm using Coca-Cola because you are all familiar with Coca-Cola. You take Coca-Cola. Even if you have stopped taking it, you have taken it before. So you see why you took it. They said our vision is to craft the brands and choice of drinks that people love. So the focus is on people, to refresh them in body and spirit, while doing so in a manner that ensures that every product is a product they can trust for both quality and safety. It is a trust that must be maintained, enhanced, and continue to be earned every day with 1.9 billion servings a day. So you see what we've been talking about is incorporated in this statement. Then it comes to the workers. Every associate across the enterprise is responsible for ensuring quality and food safety and in delivering on that brand trust, whether they work directly in our manufacturing operations or as part of the delivery and merchandising of our products at the point of purchase, or indirectly in enabling services such as finance, HR, legal, IT, or public affairs. Every person plays an important role in keeping the promise with our customers. And what is the promise? To give them something they can trust, something that will refresh their soul, their body and spirit. Then he says this means that they receive the perfect product, trusted everywhere. So there is no geographical limitation. Everywhere, every time. Nothing less than 100% quality and safety is acceptable. So this is what carries Coca-Cola and has carried them for many years. So if you also want to have an organization that will stay beyond your existence, these are things you look at. Now, how do you communicate this policy you have designed? It has to be, first, documented and made readily available throughout the organization. And you can do that through awareness and communication. You do training, you let them know that this is the way we are going, and everybody must come on board, no discrimination. Then they know where we are going. So everyone is involved. It's not only the lab people, no. The cleaner is involved. The cleaner should be made know that what you do affects what we do. The motor rider, the courier, should be made know that if you delay in bringing this in, it affects this. So if they understand, the work becomes better, and you will end up satisfying assigning roles. Person should understand and be aware through the assignment through effective communication. So when you say you are the quality officer for this bench, the person should be aware and should understand what is expected. You are the safety officer. The person should be aware and understand this is what is happening. And such things should be documented. They should be documented. Now, when the top management delegates their authority to an individual, no matter what happens, the top management still remains responsible and accountable for anything the person does. So giving the responsibility or delegating it does not mean they are exempted from accountability. They are still accountable. And that's why they have to keep track of the progress of what they are doing. Now, assigning the responsibility or the roles. These are the key things the standard expects you to assign to individuals. It could be one person, it could be two people. It depends on how you want to do it. So the person or the role, one of the roles is ensuring that the quality management system conforms to the requirements of this international standard. That is the ISO 9001, 2015 edition. So I'm looking at the quality manager. So the quality manager may be responsible to ensure that processes are delivering their intended results. He reports on the performance of the quality management system and on opportunities for improvement to the top management. The other thing too is he ensures the promotion of customer focus throughout the organization. So every individual working, he alerts the person that the customer is king. The customer is what we are looking at. And so this role, he can do it with the marketing manager or anybody who is into public relations. Then the next thing is ensuring that the integrity of the quality management system is maintained, even when changes are made to it. So if you want to make changes, he ensures that, okay, this is done, but we have records to show that the changes were done this way and they've been implemented. And in that way, all these people are also aware of their responsibility, and we will be able to have a good organizational context with leadership supporting what we have designed to achieve our intended results. Thank you.
Well. Thank you so much for the deep presentation for today. The pages are very active. Some are complaining that they couldn't hear because of bad network. So we'll see what we can do about that going forward. Then also making the content available after the section. So it's time for questioning. If you have any question, you can raise your hand, then you'll be invited to ask. If you have contribution, suggestion, you are also welcome. Thank you so much. Foster Otin, kindly, let me see. Otin, Foster, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. In fact, you don't have a mic on. So kindly check that. Obed Do, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. Obed Do, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, okay. Was having a bad challenge, but then I joined. My network became stable at the latter part. So getting to the quality roles and responsibilities and all those stuffs. I just want to appreciate our presenter for a good work done. My question would also fall into the aspect of the part of reporting on performance of the quality management system. Is it the general responsibility of the organization, or it's something specific related to an individual?
If I understand you, you are referring to John. Did you get it?
Yes.
Is it clear? Okay. Then go ahead and digest it for us.
I mean, that's Obed, right?
Yes, Obedo.
Yeah. Okay. Tracking the performance of the quality management system is normally given to an individual so that there won't be bias. That person is given authority to say what he has to say, no preferences. But he doesn't work alone. You have others from the various departments to help by bringing in information. So maybe the supervisor of a particular department, maybe the hematology, aside the lab manager, we have various branches, chemistry and the rest. Then if it is physiotherapy, they may have different sessions. So all those places, all those people will be bringing him information and they'll be having meetings. So that's why they'll have to be a quality management team or a quality team. So members from the various departments join and they have frequent meetings to know what is going on. And he will take that report to the top management for them to know how well they are performing. And the final performance of that organization is done by an external auditor, which is done mostly when you want to go for the quality management. They come at the beginning, they do the assessment, and they give you the accreditation. A year or two later, they will come back to reassess you to check whether you are doing what you said you would do. So that way, you keep on monitoring the performance of the organization. So it's not just the whole company, but one person is in charge with team members helping. I hope I've clarified that.
Okay. Roxanne Adujemfi, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. Roxanne Adujemfi.
Please, my question is, in the first place, if next time you can increase the font size for us to, maybe on the presentation, we can also read through the dot 1 or 2 points together. And then secondly, can you do evaluation at your department? Maybe it's not a private or it's not like Ghana Health Service. My department laboratory, maybe I want to assess my staff from the patient. Can I do evaluation on that process to find out either my work or the activities went on at the lab, the patient or my customers, are they happy about it, so that we can also know what to do? Thank you.
Yeah, John.
Yeah. Okay, first, yes, you can do that. So these standards can be or they can be narrowed to a particular department. For instance, the laboratory you're talking about, one, your number one customer may not be the patient per se, it will be the physician. So once you find out how satisfied the patient is, so that would be how fast was the sample taken, how was the patient handled, and how fast will the results be. So you get assessments for that. So the feedback you get from that will help you improve upon your processes towards the patient. Now, you have to get feedback from the doctor. You find out from the doctor, how are the results? Are they meeting your expectation? Your clinical details and the results, do they normally match up, or you see discrepancies? How can we improve it? And there's some things you need in this particular test. For instance, if you offer a renal function test and all you give the doctor is urea creatinine, you don't give electrolyte. The doctor may be saying, okay, can you add electrolyte? Then you add sodium, potassium chloride. You exclude bicarbonate. The doctor will say, can you add that so that I will see the anion? Those inputs cannot come from the patient. So once you look at the patient, you also look at the physician. And in that way, it will help you improve your laboratory.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me quickly add something more. So the focus of this training, I must say, is not for us to all go and push that we should get ISO across board, but it is aimed at engineering all of us, giving us how the ISO scope works, so that in your own small way, you can implement some of the things that you can do. Like Madam Comfort said yesterday, there are some of the things that you can do, or they are in ISO that you can easily implement at your facility. So yes, the question you just asked is one thing that you can just easily do so that you improve on the service you are providing. You don't necessarily have to ensure that ISO is implemented before you can do some of those things. In fact, you are to think ISO when there is no ISO. So I have even argued that, I mean, it should be a broad knowledge that all of us will have as far as without you having ISO implemented. Those aspects of the ISO that you can do, document control and those ones, like Madam Comfort said yesterday, you don't need getting review from patients, from the doctors. There are things that we can do. Thank you so much. Madam Comfort, yes, you are back. Give us your input. Madam Comfort, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. We are grateful to the facilitator, and what I want to add is that he said, temperature-bound items. You don't need ISO to do that. Setting up your controls, cycling control, whatever control you have to run every day before you run your main test. It's a laboratory requirement, even without ISO in place. You are supposed to do all these things. And one basic thing you can effect immediately is broken down equipment. Many of them are still with you in the laboratory environment. List all of them if they are not serviceable anymore and they have to be ruled as not being put to any use anymore. Just list them and then keep a copy on file and send the rest to the procurement.
Madam Comfort, can you stand? You can check the network for us.
Oh, okay. I said, keeping equipment, broken down equipment, when you go to our lab, you see that under the cupboards and everywhere, there's so many stuff there that are not serviceable. You are not using them, but they are still in the lab environment with you, in that small space. So begin to commission all of them.
Hello.
It's not coming still. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hello, Madam Comfort.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's coming now.
Yes, please, your voice has been breaking so much. Kindly check your network for us if you can, and retake your statement because we didn't hear what you wanted to communicate to us.
Oh, okay. I said those things that does not cost money. One of them is keeping a good temperature chart.
Oh, it's still bad. It's still bad.
It's so bad. Okay, then let me
Evans, I think it is from your end because I can hear her very well.
Hello.
Samson, you said?
I can hear her very well, so I think it is from your end.
I can also hear.
Okay.
So I'm saying good temperature documentation. It doesn't cost much money, or even if it costs money, it's only the thermometers that you have to let them buy. And many are not very expensive. So keep good temperature records of all temperature bound items. Water bath, you are using water bath. Your controls, running control, cycling test, all the tests that you have to do control. These are things, basic things, even from the lab school you are taught to do. But over the period, as we become complacent and leave some of these out, but those are the things ISO is demanding for. So please, the decongestion of our laboratory environment. Already the environment is very small. You don't have enough space, yet broken down equipment are all sitting in the room with you. So go back, starting from tomorrow, and decongest your lab by listing all the items that you don't need, and then keep a copy on file. And then if it should go to stores, let them pick them to stores and then decongest. You can do simple things to let the management know that now you are, bringing changes. And that's what every manager wants to see. So please, let's go back, not just CPD points. Let's go back and implement everything we are learning today. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's go back and implement whatever we are learning in our various departments. Mr. Masotete, kindly ask your question.
Good evening, please. I want to ask the ISO 9001-2015 and ISO 9001-2008. Is it a review? Is the 2015 a review of the 2008? Please, do you get my question?
Yes, Maso.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the 2018.
Okay.
Okay. The 2008. Yes.
Okay.
If you joined earlier, I stated that the 2015 has what we call the process approach in dealing with the processes. Then it has risk-based thinking. Then it applies the PDCA, the involvement of the leadership and its commitment in achieving such standard in your organization.
Meanwhile, the 2008 doesn't have these three things.
No, there's a difference. The number of clauses in the 2015 are 10, but the ones in the 2008, they were only 8. So if you don't mind, hold on, let me give you the differences. in 20, so I'll mention the ones that were in 2008. You had the scope, the nominative, reference, terms and definitions. The same way in 2015. But when you come to clause 4, in 2008, you had quality management system. But in 2015, clause 4 was now, or is now, context of the organization.
Okay. I understood.
Clause 5 in 2008 was management responsibility. But in 2015, it's leadership. Then we have planning, support, and so it was improved. I think the quality management system and the management responsibility was expanded upon for people to know what is actually needed so that they can easily achieve the standard.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So I'm not seeing any new hands. Madam Comfort, is your hands raised or you are done? Let me lower it. If it's a new one, I'm for sure she'll come back. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes, but with nothing more to discuss, I think we can call the meeting to an end for today so that we prepare for tomorrow's session. So I want to thank each and everyone and our facilitator, Rajon, for this awesome presentation. Thank you so much. Hope to see you tomorrow. Please, let's call our colleagues who have not been joining to join us. What we are learning here is very, very basic and very instrumental in our operations, in our workplaces. Thank you so much. Hope to see you tomorrow. Good evening.